Greetings survivors and friends, Shadowfrax here once again with your weekly Rust update, and this episode was supposed to start with me sitting down in a chair with a new face, but sadly being able to sit down in chairs and being given a completely new face were two things that were pulled from this update at the last moment, so you'll just have to wait until next week for that particular spectacle. Doesn't stop me talking about them though, and yes indeed, for a short time yesterday on the staging branch it was possible to mount chairs, which does sound a lot more manly than taking a seat, you have to admit, but as I say, although it's currently disabled to prevent exploits, it should be in next week, and as well as finally fixing the game for everyone will make those weekly board meetings so much easier. It should be possible to use weapons from a seated position too, making roof camping or just sitting on your porch with a shotgun a much more relaxing pastime in the process, but the longer term effects of this feature will also be to help make vehicles a reality in the future. The new player skins were another thing that for a short time were available to gawk at on the staging branch, but again you'll have to wait until next week for these to hit properly. Mine has changed slightly, as you can see, still handsome though. Of course, when I say you'll all be getting a new skin, this doesn't mean your bits are being reshuffled, so don't panic. This affects your mugs more than your jugs and makes you more unique and special, just like you are in real life. And oh, when it hits, it's going to be so popular. There were a number of quality of life tweaks this week though, so I'll run you through them now. First of all, tooltips were added to the new weapon and tool info panels, just in case you wondered what tree gather meant or things like that. You really are being spoilt, you know. Also, food and medical items received the info panel treatment, showing all the relevant stats to help make sure you get your 5 a day. Talking of which, there were a couple of changes to foods in that all raw meats will now poison you, with the exception of fish, because sashimi. However, they still have a calorific value, so can be used for fishing and baiting wild animals. Burnt food is no longer poisonous. Tell that to my mother, but instead will yield a quarter of the goodness of properly cooked stuff, which is great because now it means I can eat 4 times as much well done steak as before without having to watch my figure. Auto turret tracking range was reduced this week. Once locked on, they used to continue eyeing you suspiciously for an extra 25% further than their actual range. Fortunately, this excess has now been trimmed. Also, a performance-related bug that affected bases with lots of auto turrets was tracked down and fixed, so they shouldn't mess up your experience quite so badly now. The aim cone on the Thompson was reduced to account for the new recoil patterns, something that should have been done before but was missed out for some reason, and not only have vending machines had their health increased by 25%, but when destroyed, they will now take all of their contents with them into the void. The aim of this is to encourage them to be used a bit more widely, and if you really want to steal from one now, you'll have to gain access to the back end. Workshop skins have reverted to no longer downloading during the loading screen. This is thanks to a recent optimization that saw this process move to a separate thread, and so you can now join the game immediately and let them do their thing in the background. Although having said that, if you have a related problem and want to switch back to the way things were, you still can by using Skin Warmup 1 in the console. The combat log, which you can access funnily enough by typing combat log into console, now has an extra column of information which will tell you whether a hit either killed or just wounded a player or entity. You can read all of the thrilling details about this particular change and why it was needed on the dev blog, so I'll let you do that if you don't mind. Graphically, there's a slight resolution upscaling issue that's preventing an upgrade to the latest version of Unity. This is resulting in some anti-aliasing artifacts, causing smaller text to look awful for instance, and there's not really a lot that can be done until Unity get their finger out and patch it. Something that has been improved though is the lighting and shadowing in-game. Direct light intensity has been reduced and compensated for with higher exposure. Also, ambient lighting saturation was halved to make surfaces less blue when in shadow. A stab was also made at fixing the floating shadows problem, which you can witness in this example. This issue also manifests itself in other ways, such as light leaking onto areas that should be fully in shadow, and as you can see, the fix to this looks a lot better. Also, some effects were added to Bradley's treads this week, which produced dirt and smoke when he trundles over the terrain. Over to works in progress now, and AI nav meshes are almost finished, which is good news because the focus can now shift to NPC behaviour, and you may remember last week I mentioned that after the new supermarket and petrol station, attention was going to switch to tarting up the snow biome and creating some more biome-specific smoluments. The goal is to have handcrafted scenes which would blend perfectly with the procedurally generated terrain, serving both as landmarks and giving players unique and maybe strategic areas to build on. The first of these being worked on is a frozen lake for the snow biome, which will have variants and, as you can see here, could have different things embedded in the ice. Going forward, the icebergs, as I mentioned before, are being reworked to look more authentic and have multiple access points, and you can also expect floating ice sheets that will expand the playable area out into the ocean. Very cool. It's not just going to be the frozen north that will get a 60-minute makeover, but other biomes could see features such as canyons, sand dunes, plateaus, different rock formations, and marshes. A lot of this is still up in the air, but stay tuned and I'll tell you what I know when I know it. Please support my channel by leaving a like and subscribing. Come and visit me also on Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, and my Steam group. I shall catch you all soon, but in the meantime, keep calm and stay rusty. Cheerio.